What up my peeps, how's it going? I'm gonna be bringing you today 3 different builds for the Weaver PvP, and they all use the sword and focus. The sword has some really nice engage abilities and also a disengage ability, and on top of that you got the focus with all that CC and projectile cancelling annoyance that you can bring to the table. So stick around, let me know what you think of these builds as well in the comment section down below, and I'll see you in a bit. So this first build is a power-based build, and to go for it you go for Arcane, Water, and Weaver. Here you're gonna use the renewing stamina, so middle, then bottom the final shielding, and then middle again elemental surge. Then in Water you're gonna go for Soothing Ice, you're gonna go for Aquamancer's Training, and then Cleansing Water, which is top, bottom, top. And then in Weaver you're gonna go for Master's Fortitude, then Swift Revenge, and then finally Woven Stride, so that's bottom, middle, middle. For the equipment, you're going to take the sword in your main hand and the focus on your offhand, taking the Sigil of Agility there and the Sigil of Energy. Then you're going to go for the Rune of the Pack, which gives you loads of power and gives you some swiftness, and the Marauder Amulet, which gives you some power, precision, vitality, and ferocity. Then you're going to be using the Arcane Brilliance, which is going to give you some nice healing on top of some extra damage. So if you hit more targets with this ability, you're going to be getting extra healing per target. So 20% extra healing per target, which is quite a lot. And hopefully you're in the middle of them, hitting them with it, so that's going to be really nice for you. Then you're going to use some Lightning Flash to get away from tough encounters, and you're going to use Arcane Shield to protect yourself if you're being targeted. On top of that, you're going to take Unravel so that you can quickly go to your middle ability that's specific to whatever attunement you're on. So that's going to bring you to whatever attunement you're on, which is quite handy sometimes. Then you're going to use the Weave Self, which is really nice, especially if you're in the middle of the fight, and that's going to help you get extra damage as well as get a really large CC off on everyone around you. So here you'll notice that your arcane abilities are going to be giving you some vigor, and on top of that they're going to be reduced in cooldown from this ability right here. And on top of that you will notice that your healing and your arcane shield is going to be both taking advantage of that reduced cooldown right there of 20%, so you're going to be able to heal yourself more often and dash out this extra strong heal. In any case, you're going to be able to get an extra arcane shield whenever you drop down to low health, so that's always a bonus right there to pick up if you want. In terms of the water, you'll notice that it's going to be giving extra regen to people, and you'll be getting reduced recharge there as well, which is really nice on all your healing abilities, all your water abilities even. And on top of that, your cleanse conditions from allies you grant regeneration too. So cleansing water is going to be proccing a lot more because of Soothing Ice right there. And on top of that, whenever you use your water ability number 2 to heal, it's going to grant regen to your allies, and on top of that it's going to cleanse a condition from them, which is really important since there's so many Condi builds out there. The Weaver build here is granting you extra vitality as well, and granting you some damage increase on your dual attacks, as well as granting swiftness whenever you do a dual attack. And on top of that, it grants you swiftness when you are inflicted with inhibiting conditions. When gaining either super speed or swiftness, also gain regeneration. So swiftness has increased effectiveness here. So what I like to do is engage with either F3 number 2, so air number 2, or F1 number 2, fire number 2. They're both really good engages, and the middle ability of fire and air is also really good. So you get that stun or knockdown right away, and you just engage with full force. You can stop any projectiles coming your way. You can also swap to fire and water, so you can get a disengage if you need, or that sweet extra shield. On top of that, you can go to fire and earth, and to burst out tons of damage whilst being somewhat tanky. You can also go to air and earth. That's going to dash out some nice damage, give you an extra gap closure, and make you really tanky whilst dashing out some nice CC and some really nice damage. Don't forget that your number 2 gives you a nice evade, and that you got those 2 abilities for extra CC as well, which are really nice. So water number 4 and 5 give you some really nice CC, so make sure you put those into your rotations. You'll notice that your healing ability will hit multiple people around you, so when you do that, the more people you hit, the more healing it'll give you, and it'll apply some conditions as well, which makes me wonder why this build doesn't focus more on condition damage, but that's just a criticism. You got the Arcane Shield, which also gives you the Arcane Lightning, which increases your ferocity. You can use Unravel if you want to go to a single stance right there, if you want to just use that middle ability of your weapons, and if you want to get all of that in the same attunement. Weave Self you should use where you're right in the middle of the fight, and it's pretty simple. You just use your middle abilities, try and use your dual attack before you swap, because you're going to be proccing that extra damage and shield barrier to you. And then once you finish it off, try and move to a position where you hit as many targets as possible, because that dashes out some really good CC. So if you combo this with the staff build of a friend of yours, then you can dash out meteorites and stun everyone. It's just crazy. Weave Self is one of those abilities that I noticed goes really well with close ranged abilities, like you see with the dagger, with the sword, and with the focus, because you have to be mainly inside the fight. Well, the focus doesn't have to be inside the fight, but like it allows you to gap close a lot faster, so it makes sense to bring out the focus in this. So the second build I'm going to be talking about is quite similar to the previous one, except it's less supportive, it's more based on power, and you'll see that the Marauder Amulet is still present here. That gives you basically tons of power for your build. So it's a sword and focus build. It uses the Sigil of Exploitation, the Sigil of Energy. Then you're going to equip the Rune of the Scholar, which gives you power, ferocity, power, and more damage when your health is above 90%. And then, as I said before, you're going to have the Marauder Amulet again, which gives you tons of power for your build. Then, in terms of specializations, you're going to go for Arcane, Air, and Weaver. In Arcane, you're going to go for middle, top, so that is Renewing Stamina, Elemental Contingency, and Evasive Arcana. For Air, you're going to go for middle, bottom, which is 1 with Air, Shocking Aura, and very importantly, the Lightning Rod, which is going to deal a lot of damage every time you go and attack them. So you got the Weaver here, superior elements, so top, middle, top, superior elements, Swift Revenge, and elements of Rage. This is going to give you some more damage, whilst giving you some swiftness as well here. So this is very damage based build, I would say. In terms of utility abilities, you're going to be using the Signet of Restoration, you're going to be using Lightning Flash, and then Arcane Shield, followed by the Twist of Fate. I actually forgot to change that one right there. So 2 defensive abilities right there, so that you can protect yourself when needed, and escape one right there. And you're going to be using the Conjure Fiery Greatsword, because that's going to give you an extra bunch of damage that you can apply in the middle of a fight, especially if you're in the middle of a team fight. You can do the meteorite shower right there, which is really, really good. So the big difference in gameplay is going to be you're going to be using a lot more air attunement rather than water attunement, since obviously in your build you're using the air here instead of water. So you're not going to be focusing as much on supporting your team as you are in doing damage. This is straight up power build. You're going to be wanting to be in the middle of the fight doing damage, and the rotation is very similar to what I was talking about earlier. You're going to be just dashing out damage, CC, deflecting projectiles from you, and trying to engage with either fire 2 or air number 2. And every time you use your air abilities, you're going to be proccing out that that lightning whenever you have the cooldown. In terms of your abilities, utility abilities, these are mostly changed. Your healing is going to be now granting you passive healing every time you attack, so every time I'm attacking these golems, I'm getting healed by 202, and then when you cast this signet, you heal yourself in a burst. The lightning flash you're still going to be using to escape fights when you're like not having a good time. You could also use it to engage, but I usually prefer to use it as a disengage, since you do have 2 engage abilities and only 1 disengage ability right there. Then you're going to be using these 2 abilities either when you're stunned to break stun and to not get damaged, or to avoid any specific burst you might see coming. The same with the arcane shield right there. Finally, the fire sword, you're going to be trying to conjure that either next to an ally of yours, or into a place that you can go and grab it later in case you want to use it again, because it's always nice to just come back once the cooldown is almost done and pick up a second fiery sword. You got a couple of good abilities with this one. First off is obviously the shower of meteorites, which is really, really strong, and it's quite quick to cast compared to the staff meteorite ability. You have 1 engage ability, which is also gap closure, and you got another ability that does not require a target, that you can just slide through, kind of like Tryndamere in League of Legends, and you can just wreck up any allies and any enemies in the way. So the third build I'm going to be talking about is a sort of hybrid build between support. It's definitely more damage oriented than support, especially compared to the first build there. But yeah, I thought it was worth mentioning because it's more condition based rather than being straight up power build. So if you want to do more of a hybrid power and condition based build, then yeah, this is definitely a good one to try. Because first off, here the rune you're going to be going for is the Berserker rune. However, you need to pay 5 gold or something in order to use this one. So yeah, I haven't tried this build with this rune specifically. However, I found a good alternative, which is the rune of the Elementalist, which you should be able to get it for free. At least I had it already, so that seems to be a pretty good one, because basically what they do is give you power condition, and the big difference there is you're going to be getting plus 20% burning duration and plus 20% chill duration, whereas the rune of the Berserker gives you plus 5% damage and plus 5% condition damage. So that one is a bit better with this build, I find, in terms of trying to get more damage, but this one gives you a bit more CC and a bit more burning duration for your ability number 1 of the fire sword. So in terms of sigils, you have quite a different option. The build suggests to use the Sigil of Doom, although I also like to use the Sigil of Compounding, so you deal 1% extra damage per condition on your foe. So I think this is a pretty good one to take as well, because it gives you, it just procs more damage basically. Then you can use the Sigil of Energy, which is also a pretty good one. You're able to dodge more often, and yeah, it just helps you dodge all those abilities while you're close range. As I said, you're going to be using the Rune of the Elementalist, which gives you a ton of power and condition damage, or the Berserker one if you prefer. Then you're going to be using the Sage Amulet, which basically gives you a bunch of power, a bunch of condition damage, then some vitality and healing power so that you're a bit more supportive and you can tank a bit more. So in terms of specializations, you're going to be taking Arcane, Water, and Weaver. In Arcane, you're going to take middle, top, which is Renewing Stamina, Elemental Contingency, and Evasive Arcana. For Water, you're going to be taking top, which is Soothing Ice, Aquamancer's Training, Cleansing Water. In Weaver, you're going to be taking top, which is the Master's Fortitude, Weaver's Prowess, and Invigorating Strikes. So these specializations you're going to be taking are going to be making you slightly tankier with the extra vigor and the boons, as well as the Master's Fortitude here giving you more vitality, and the Invigorating Strikes giving you more barrier and vigor every time you use a dual attack. Then the Weaver's Prowess is going to be dealing out more damage, so you get plus 10% condition damage and 20% condition duration, so that's a very good one to take on a condition damage sort of build. And on top of that, you're going to be regenerating all your allies with water here, cleansing all of the conditions as well every time you use regeneration, and again you're going to be reducing the recharge similarly to the first build right there. In terms of abilities, you're going to be taking, utility wise, the Signet of Restoration. So this grants health every time you cast a spell, similarly to second build, and every time you use it you heal yourself for a big burst. Then you're going to be using the Lightning Flash so you can get out of tough situations. As all of the other builds we've seen, this seems to be a very good ability, and it's prominent in pretty much every PvP Elementalist build. Then you got the Primordial Stance, which is just pretty good to deal some damage and make them burn, chill, inflict vulnerability, or inflict bleeding depending on what attunement you're in. Twist of Fate again being used here compared to the second build as well. This seems to be a very good ability. I use it in the PvE build as well, because whenever you're stunned you're very vulnerable as an elementalist, especially if they manage to combo stuns. So chain stuns together, you're vulnerable for so long. But this actually breaks the stun, and then you can evade for a while. So that's pretty good, because now you don't have the overload, whereas in the overload ability they break stuns. This one has that covered for you. Then you got the Weave Self. Once again, you want to be using this in the big area, as I covered before, so yeah, you know what it is. It's pretty good. So in terms of the gameplay, the main difference here is you want to start with fire, water, instead of engaging with fire, air, because you're focusing more on chilled right there rather than the knockdowns, even though obviously still swap to it when you need it, because this has a big cooldown of 20 seconds. But now you'll notice your cooldown abilities on your water are a lot lower, because you're using air, the water instead of air specialization. So definitely keep that in mind when you're doing your ability rotation. Apart from that, it's very similar to the other build, except this time you got the Weave Self, just like in the first build. You want to proc that in a big area around you, and you want to try and proc as much of the dual abilities as you can along the Weave Self. This concludes the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want to watch more videos like this, and don't forget to like the video as well if you enjoyed it, and comment down below your thoughts, especially on the builds, because these builds are still in test mode. The best build at the moment is still considered the Auramancer build, but it's now gone to tier 1 rather than being a meta build, so yeah, whatever that means, you know. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.